Welcome to the H2O Podcast, where two brothers, Kyle and Will, talk reef tanks, coral drama, random life stuff, and probably some stupid opinions along the way. You've officially been warned. Stay salty, stay opinionated. It's time for H2O.
Welcome back to the H2O Podcast, where two brothers, Kyle and Will, talk reef, do a little bit of BSing, and have some fun. You might notice the background's a little bit different this time. That's my fault. I'm actually on a trip in DC. I've been here for about a week, but the podcast is still coming to you guys. It does not matter if we're together or apart. We're here to have fun, and we're here to bullcrap.
Yep, I'm glad you said bull crap on that one.
Live censoring here.
That was pretty good.
Episode 4, we're having a blast as we're doing this. Y'all are starting to get involved with us as we're talking. The live streams on release nights have been a lot of fun. I think tomorrow night we're going to be doing live.
I think we might have a guest.
Yeah, we're going to have a guest. That's going to be awesome.
Maybe.
If you're ever interested in jumping in on one of these, please contact me, contact Will, or hit the page up. We'll have you in. We'll have some fun. That's all we're here for, honestly.
Yeah.
But tonight, right now, episode 4, tonight we're going to do a deep dive on dosing. What's your thoughts on that, Will?
This is one of the things that I'm a nerd about. I love dosing. Obviously, I own the chemical line Quantum, so dosing is kind of my thing. I think a lot of people always reach out to us and ask us what we should think about alkalinity, magnesium, calcium, nitrate, and phosphate. What should we do? How should we dose? What should we look for? When should we dose? All those different types of things. So tonight, that's what we're going to talk about. So let's just break down and get right on into it, because I know you're a little busy. You got a lot going on. What's your thoughts on dosing? I mean, is it something you regularly do? When do you start? Kind of what's your thoughts on it? Let's go through it.
I mean, realistically, you can break it back down to, like, if you've ever walked into a fish store, you see 50 to 500 different bottles of everything you can dose for, from iodine, potassium, alkalinity, magnesium, calcium, biogen, biometals, neonitro, neophospho, high-range nitrate, low-range nitrate. The list literally goes on and on.
Yeah.
How can we bring this in? Y'all can't see my hands. How can we bring this in from a big number to a small number? Make it make sense to you guys. That's the goal for tonight. For me, yeah, there we go.
Now we can see your hands.
To me, it all kind of really boils down to what you need, how you need it, and truly, genuinely figuring out what that need is.
Yeah, I agree with you. The biggest thing that we have from all the customers that reach out to me is they, like you said, walk into a store, see a million different things. When do you need to start dosing? That's the first big thing I think we should really talk about. Actually, you know what? Let's back up.
No.
What is dosing? What is dosing?
There you go.
I mean,
that's
dosing...
even further back than what I was going to say.
Where were you going?
I was going to say why and when, but I think what is first.
Yeah, I mean, what is dosing is more important than anything right now. I mean, we see all these beautiful colors, beautiful corals that we have in the background of this image that we have here. They all got these bright colors. They're nice, big. They've got big skeleton growth in them. Those corals are eating every day. When they photosynthesize, they're using chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, plus all the aragonite structures in the tank, like calcium, alkalinity, magnesium. They're also using nitrate. They're also using phosphate to help make those skeletal structures that we all think is beautiful and what looks good in a tank. So our goal here with dosing is to replenish all of those trace elements that are being consumed by those corals. If we don't replenish them, they get brittle and die. Think about osteoporosis in humans. When you get into those older ages and you quit drinking the milk that your mother told you to when you were younger, you start losing calcium in your body and you get osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is lack of calcium in the human body. It's the same thing with corals. If they don't have that calcium, they get very brittle. Ever worked in someone's tank and actually like flicked a coral or accidentally bumped it, it just breaks off and falls apart? That's lack of calcium in the tank. So what is dosing is the replenishing of all of those aragonite elements, macro and micro trace elements in your corals and your ecosystem and your entire environment inside that tank. Tonight we're going to focus on 5 of those elements. We're going to focus on the 3 aragonite elements, which is your alkalinity, calcium, magnesium. And then we're going to also touch on the nutrients, which is your phosphate and your nitrate. We're not going to go deep into what the actual recommendation is for nitrate and phosphate because it varies on every single tank type and everything's different. And everybody's mind
opinion on that.
Everybody has a different opinion on that one. So we're going to go with the main three, the main aragonite series. We'll brush on the nitrate and phosphates and go from there. So when do you actually need a dose, Kyle?
See, before we even transition to that,
Okay.
let's backtrack even more. We were talking about what dosing is, and we talked about these additives. I want to touch, first off, we're getting to the win, but a lot of it varies from what you need and where you are in your tank cycle. Cycle is a loose term. Tank's life and ecosystem. Because water changes do replace a decent amount. So when you're doing these water changes and whatnot, if you're in a beginner's tank or lower level of corals, you usually can handle it with water changes.
Yeah.
However, when you want to ramp it up, that's when you get into it.
So I think water changes is part of dosing. Personally, I mean, I tell every single customer, it doesn't matter if you want a tank like you see in the background here, or if you want a full-blown, that is a full-blown tank, or if you want like a standard softy tank, which is just a few of the small mushrooms and zoanthans and things like that. Water changes is the place to start. You start with water changes. You do your weekly water changes, your bi-weekly water changes. Whatever your husbandry maintenance is, you stick to that. If it's going to be water changes every 2 weeks, then test your alkalinity and calcium and magnesium before you do a water change. Test it 48 hours after you do that water change. See what that number is and track it. The most important thing about dosing is keeping everything stable. And you can use some sort of guidebook or logbook to help keep those up, even an Excel spreadsheet, anything like that works. But you got to see where you're at and where you go to what gets consumed before that water change. That level needs to stay very close. If it starts drifting too far away, that's when you start dosing. Otherwise, water change keeps it pretty level. Just keep doing water changes and you don't need to add anything else because you're not consuming and using a lot.
So in reference of water changes, what's your take on this? And I'll give you my opinion afterwards. Your salt. Do you use salt for your target levels or do you shoot above? Where do you shoot for your target levels versus the salt you use?
So me personally, it depends on the type of tank. If I'm doing a soft coral tank, I will start with it a little bit higher. If I'm doing a soft coral with a few stony or LPS or SPS corals, it will be a little bit of an elevated salt. But if I have, again, a tank like we see in the background here with SPS, a fully stocked tank, I want that number to be exactly where I want my tank. So if I want my tank at 8.5, I'm going to kind of go find a salt that I like that is at that 8.5 alkalinity or that 440 calcium or whatever it is. I want that number when I do a water change. There is no swing because remember, this swing is the most important thing in this hobby. The more we can mitigate that swing, the healthier our corals are going to be.
I agree. I tend to on my lesser tanks, my more softies and my base LPS and whatnot, when I'm dosing less, I actually tend to shoot for higher salts. Like if I'm shooting for 8.5 alk, I'm using like a 10 alk salt to kind of supplement the week in between. It's dosing, basically. I'm just dosing a higher level of alkalinity that first day so that my corals have more to eat throughout the week to kind of supplement the fact that I'm not.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it is swinging. So your higher end corals, your SPS, things like that, they hate it.
Yep. So we talked about keeping it stable. We talked about using the salt with a little bit higher to bring it down over the 2 week time or the week time, whatever that period is that you do, whatever your husbandry is. Keep the husbandry the same, by the way, because if you don't keep it the same, you can't figure out that dosing because it changes.
Consistency is key.
So what do we need to dose? When do you figure out you need to dose? How do you figure out by testing that you need to dose? That's something we didn't even really talk about. Do you test to figure out when you dose, or do you just guess?
Testing is the obvious answer in my book. And basically the answer to that question is when you start seeing your numbers dip. when your water changers are no longer keeping up with your consumption. So if you're testing before every water change and you're pretty consistently staying at throwing numbers 9 alkalinity, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that creep down 8.7, 8.5. Now it's time to start supplementing because your corals are starting to grow. They're starting to consume more.
Yep. So what do you test with? Are we using reagents? Are we taking it to a fish store? What's our recommendation? I mean, it's going to be, if you're first starting, take it to a fish store, let them help you, get you going with dosing, and then when it's time to really settle in and dial in that dosing, what's your recommendation? What do you do?
It really kind of depends on the knowledge level, in my opinion, because if you're knowledgeable, you can test every day. You should know how to handle your dosing. If you genuinely don't know what you're doing, no judgment, go to your local fish store, buy their product, buy what they're selling, do their tests, and let them take you step by step through your dosing period and learn. Once you get educated, that's when you can branch off. But when you're first starting out and trying to learn how to dose and what to dose, finding it, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be a fish store. Most of our hobbies, most of our communities have great forums, great Facebook pages. There's a lot of great people in this hobby that will take you under their wing and help you.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of people.
Consistency is key. You talk to me, I'm going to tell you how to dose. Dose quantum and handle it through quantum space because I'm a quantum guy. You talk to my competitor in my town, they go and seek him or they're going all for reef. We start giving different information. That's when your tank fails.
Right. That's the biggest thing I will say right now with be stable when you get started and when you're trying to figure it out. I don't care what brand you do. I don't care if you're using BRS 2-part, pull chemicals in the way of calcium carbonate and soda ash or sodium bicarbonate. I don't care what you're doing. Just make sure you stick with one until you get that consumption rate figured out and get it dialed in. Once you get it dialed in, then we can go into, say we want a 2-part, say we want a single part, say we want an all for reef, or say we want a 4-part, or even a 24-part if you're going ICP testing. The base matters of getting that stability lined up and consistent. So let's talk about dosing kits. I mean, not dosing kits, test kits. So I have the Sarah Aqua Test box here. This is the kit that I use personally when I first start my tanks. The reason I use this one is it's got ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium in it. So it's got everything you need to do to start your tank. When this one gets to the point where my alkalinity and calcium are swinging and I'm trying to figure it out and get it dialed in for dosing, I put this kit away and then I go into the little Hannah eggs or Salifert kits, which I do have a Salifert kit behind me. It's Easter, man. We got to say eggs. Come on.
I'm with it. I've never thought about it, but I'll never unthink it.
Never unthink it. The cool thing about these is they are digital, so you can push the button and it will give you the readings of what... wrong way. Give you the readings and it will actually walk you through step by step. There's loads of different ways to do these. There's the master kit and everything like that. But the biggest thing goes back to that stability. I mean, we've got to get the tank stable in figuring out what our tank is doing. And that's where logbooks or those Excel sheets come in. So what you're going to do is you're going to test it on day one. Go for it.
And we've said it a few times in this episode. I'm going to say it 100 more times. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
There is a range, and I'm not going to use the right term, Will. You can correct me on this. There's a range every test has. Margin of error. That's the word.
Margin of error.
Every test is going to have a margin of error. I run into this at my fish store all the time. At my fish store, I use the API Aquaspin.
Yep.
Sometimes people will come in, hey, I'm testing my phosphates. It's reading 0.07. I test it, and it's reading 0.1. Well, yep. I'm at the top of my range. I'm at the bottom of my range. You're at the top of your range. Vice versa. Like, the consistency of the test kit is what matters. Even if the test is complete, like, that's just what matters.
Yeah, so you hit a perfect point there. We had this with a customer a couple weeks ago. He was like, hey, my alkalinity is reading 6.2 at home, but here you're reading 7. And he's like, well, I just can't get those numbers up. I'm like, well, you have to quit going between this kit and this kit. You've got to use just one kit while you're trying to figure it out. And that's where I said earlier, I start with that Sarah kit or the API kit, and then once I'm trying to dial in, I go into the more specific, the more scientific kit that will actually let me get there. So with saying that, when I go to doing this, or I'm going to get set up, I'll use this type of these logbooks, and I'll go in and I'll date it. I'll do my first test on, say, March 1st. We're just going to say random numbers here to make this work. So on March 1st, I'll do a test. I'll get my calcium level, my alkalinity level, my magnesium level. I'll write those down. I'll go a week later. I'll test it. If that alkalinity was 8.0 when I did it on March 1st, and then on March 7th, it was 7.8. I now know my consumption over a week was 0.2. So now, what do? What do you do once you figure out that consumption? Do you go read the back of a bottle and just pray that it tells you exactly what to do? I mean, what's the next step? This is where a lot of people get confused in this hobby.
This really falls down to every product out there. They're going to have some sort of calculator, a dosing calculator where you can follow. They're going to have their own recommendations, and they're going to follow what they push for. So most of the calculators, if you're sitting at 6.2 alkalinity, they're going to ask what you look for. They're going to say 8.5, or you're going to put in 8.5. I'm just saying numbers. And it's going to break it down towards how.
Pulling this one up to walk through it.
All right, so I'll slow it down. So your tank size is 75 gallons. Your alkalinity is sitting at 6.2, and you want it at 8.5. And this is a pretty standard calculator. This one's specifically for quantum. It's going to recommend quantum products and all that. Like I said, that's just what we use. Not saying it's what you have to use.
So this one's saying, let's say this one's saying 65 milliliters to get it from that 6.2, but that 8.5. So let's change this back to what my numbers were with that 8.0 down to 7.5. So we're at 7.5, and we want to go to 8.0. And the reason I'm using these numbers, Kyle, I'm kind of going different than what you said, is because we did this over a week's time. So we did this test on March 1st, and we were at 8.0. On March 7th, we were at 7.5, based on our guidebooks, or our logbooks where we're keeping these numbers. Now we know we're over 7 days. This is telling us we need to add 14 milliliters to get it from 7.5 back to 8.0. So what we're going to do is that was 7-day window. We're going to take that 14 milliliters, divide it by 7. Because that's how many days we went. So now we're doing 2 milliliters a day. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that amount and we're going to split it up as much as possible. So this is where consistency really dials in and makes a big difference in this industry. Is you go based on these logbooks, keep those numbers the way you want them, right? And then you can use, I'm trying to get this to work right. And then you can use your elements. You can use your different dosing elements and whatnot that you have here, or even use your dosing pumps. That's the shot I was really trying to get, was the dosing pumps there. It took a second. But the goal here is we're adding 2 milliliters a day. So we can add 2 milliliters every time we do a water change. Oh, I missed the counter. We can do 2 milliliters every time we feed our tank, but we're doing it one-time shot. So that means at 8 o'clock at night, we're going to have a boost in alkalinity, and then it's going to come back down. We're going to have a boost the next day at 8 o'clock, and then it's going to come back down. Or we hook it up to a dosing pump, and now we set that dosing pump to take that 2 milliliters and split it up over all 24 hours. At that point, the corals have that consistent alkalinity 24/7 to feed off of, and it's never swinging.
And now this is really when the fun comes in. What happens once you start dosing and your corals start getting the alkalinity that they want?
They're going to start growing. I mean, look at a football player. What's the biggest thing you do during spring break practice? Lunch, food. You guys go eat. You guys go to all-you-can-eat buffets all the time. And the point is, you guys need that protein so you can build your muscles. It's the same thing for corals. The more you feed them, the faster and faster and faster they're going to grow. And I'm not talking food here. I'm talking give them the actual, not nutrients, give them the actual elements that they need to grow and survive.
I was trying to get at, you'll notice consumption go up.
Yes.
Which is what he was saying. But once you see that, this is why, once you do those 2 weeks of testing and you figure out that number, that 2 mils a day that you're going to dose, that number is going to change.
Yes.
It always does.
Yes.
So that's where you need to continuously test to follow that trend, because once you start going, your corals are gonna go, oh, food, and then start eating it and consuming it. Then they're gonna start growing, and then that number's gonna freaking drop.
Yeah, and you got to take into account that every polyp that is created, even on an SPS, every single polyp that's created is a new organism that's trying to grow. Imagine having a baby, having another baby. Oh, even better, puppy. Having a puppy, having a dog, and then having 7 puppies, and then having 7 more, and then 7 more. Every time it's more and more and more and more you have to keep giving them. So what I tell people to do is get your base, figure out what your consumption is, run that consumption for 6 weeks. Test religiously every week for 6 weeks straight. Once it gets stable and you don't see much movement in that number and you see that it's pretty much stable, then you can back off to once a month testing. You really can do once a month testing and be okay. Now, let's go 6 months down the road once we've started to see our corals encrusting over our frag plugs and getting a little bit bigger. Then we do a test and we see, oh crap, we're no longer at 8.0, we're no longer at 7.9, we're back down to 7.2 or 7.0. Now we've got to readjust that dosing number. We're going to go back into our calculator again and change that. So we said we were at 8.0, now we change it to 7.2 because we're consuming it a lot faster because we got a lot more corals in there. Recalculate it, now it's 22 over 7 days. I'm not even going to try to do that math, it's 3 point something. But we'll change that dose from 2 milliliters. You're like, shut up, Will, that's right.
3.165, I believe.
I wasn't going to go that far. I know 21 is 3, so I know it's a little bit over 3. I would just go to 3
I was actually
personally.
hoping you were wrong, but anyways, continue.
Go to that 3 milliliters a day, and then you'll start seeing it consuming even more because the consumption level's gone up. It's just because you've got more inhabitants consuming that element. All right, let's get on to something else. So by the way, hold on. It's the exact same for alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. It is literally the exact same process for all 3 of those elements, even phosphate and nitrate, because all of these, what you're trying to do is get that stability. Remember, like Kyle said, stability is key. It is the most important thing.
I actually say consistency is key, but that's like the same thing. So
Consistency is key. I like stability. Consistency is key. Stability is key. But the goal is to get all of those numbers as consistent and stable. And you don't want a heartbeat. You don't want a heartbeat. You want to flatline your tank. The flatter that line is in your tank and the more consistent those numbers stay, the happier and healthier your tank will be. Also, it also prevents things like coral stress, coral damage, or anything like that because they're stable. Imagine you moving all the time and whatnot, you wear out, you freak out, you start stressing and you start getting rid of things. Same things happen with your corals. I just went way off topic. Go back.
You're good, but I want to continue following down the rabbit hole just a smidgen.
Okay.
So we've been talking about calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, all of that. Target numbers versus numbers you're shooting for versus numbers where they are. I know this one's kind of a weird one because there's the right answer, the wrong answer, and my answer, which is typically the wrong answer but quicker.
Am I going first or you?
Well, let's put it first. The obvious answer is everything you read, all the forums are going to say calcium 440, magnesium 1400 or 1420, 1440. Alkalinity anywhere between 8 and 12. Nitrates and phosphates 10 to 0.1. That's the red fill ratio. That's what everything you read is going to tell you to do.
Yep.
But
every tank is different.
Go ahead.
Every tank is different. I mean, they also tell me that my ideal weight's 175 pounds. At 175 pounds, I look like a freaking skeleton. So I like to be around 190, 195. I feel good. I'm healthy at that. So every tank is different.
12 years ago.
No, I'm still there.
Sorry.
Douche. So every tank is there. What I recommend people doing with this is start with where your salt's at. If your salt is at 10.5 alkalinity, 440 calcium, 1600 magnesium, keep it there. Keep your levels there because your salt is your base. Start there. and then change it as you need. If you see that your tank's not liking the higher magnesium, slowly bring it down. But you need to change your salt, because if you do a water change with that salt again, you're just bumping it right back up. So
what are the signs of that?
Lots of different things. I mean, this is where I would say this is one of the biggest important things about local fish stores is your local fish store knows your tank better than you do. Because you come in and you talk to them. You talk to us about what's going on in your tank. We have the experience that you don't. And I keep saying we as in you and I, but every local fish store has this. They have the knowledge that you don't have. You're coming into them as an expert. It's kind of like you walking in saying, what's going on with my car? They hook up an OBD2 scanner and they tell you what's going on with your car. You walk into my fish store, I'm able to say, hey, I ask you 10, 15 questions, and then I can pinpoint you down a rabbit hole to get your tank fixed. Whether it's high magnesium, high phosphates, high nitrates, low numbers, I can talk with you through multiple things. This is where, I think it was episode 2, we talked about the Facebook people and the online myths and the online gurus and whatnot. They know what they know. They know they want their alkalinity at 8.5, their calcium at 420, their magnesium at 1325. They want it there because that's what they're doing. But that's not what's going to work best for your tank. Every tank is different, and this is where your local fish store knows it the best.
Perfect example, the display that we showed you in the last episode,
Yeah.
calcium in that tank is 320. If I raise it to 325, corals start freaking out. Don't get me wrong, I love it because dosing is way cheaper when you're dosing calcium to 320. But the minute I raise it, it freaks out. I've had polyp bail happen from trying to get my calcium to 400. So you learn over time, sure, you're going to lose some, you're going to win some. I've definitely lost on some torches trying to get that calcium up. But you learn, and this is where the experts of your local fish store really come into play.
And another thing I want to add to that is if you're following a regimen, say you're doing a Red Sea regimen, a Sea-Chem regimen, this little page flipping sound that you were talking about earlier is really annoying. I'm flipping pages trying to get to a page to show it, and it just keeps... Sorry. Pick a regimen and stay with it. What I mean by that is if you're on Red Sea or you're on the Quantum brand or whatever brand you're on, when you look at these guys, they say you want to be at X number. You want to be at 8.2. You want to be... I'm clicking on the wrong screen. You want to be at 9.0. You want to be at whatever that number is, but find what they're saying and stick to that. Start there because that's what they want you. Here's the page I was looking for. Like if you look at Quantums right here, they say ideal calcium is 420 to 440 for an LPS or soft coral tank. Mixed tank, it's 430 and SPS is 405 to 420. Alkalinity is 10.0, 8.8, 7.4. It just depends on the tank, but I would recommend sticking with whatever product line you're starting with. Again, we're talking starting. This is the beginnings lesson in dosing. We'll get a little bit more advanced here in a few minutes, but for beginners, start with whatever brand you're working with, whether it's salt, whether it's elements, no matter what it is,
answer
start.
Should be start with whatever your local fish store supplies.
Yes.
Because you're going to have questions. And I, as a fish store, I sell specifically Quantum. I am relatively knowledgeable in other products, but I'm not as knowledgeable in Sea-Chem and Alpha Reef as I am with Quantum.
Right.
So you come in asking questions about Sea-Chem, I'm going to give you the best answers I can, but ultimately I'm going to turn around and use the computer.
Yep.
So if you choose to dose whatever your local fish store that you trust supports, that's how you get your best support down the road.
And even better is if you walk in your local fish store and they don't know the answer and you're using their products. So like if someone walks into your store and they ask you a question about Quantum or they're having an issue, you're going to call the Quantum rep and get an answer and be able to say, hey, here's everything I walked through. We're at a level 20 here on questions and we cannot figure this out. Help me with something else. And your Quantum rep has done millions of tanks where you've done hundreds or even thousands.
Exactly.
So, and I've got a much vaster pool of resources than you do. Like I've got our chemists and everything who did all the R&D behind all this, where you don't. So sticking with your local fish store's products is probably the best place to start. until you get your tank stable and working through it from there.
Because despite the contrary belief, we don't, as fish stores, we don't stock what you necessarily want to buy. We stock what we have used. We stock what we believe to be the best. We're not just going to stock. I'm not going to use a brand because that would be bad right now.
Don't go the best. Go. We stock what we know
the best
works.
Yes, 100%.
What we know works. It might not be the best, but it works, and I can make your tank beautiful with it.
And I've used it personally, so I'm going to stock it. I've gone down the rabbit holes, so that's what I'm going to recommend to you, so that's what I'm going to try to sell to you. Not because it's the best profit margin or because that's what all the people on the streets are wanting. I'm using it based off my knowledge and my experience.
Yep. All right, so let's coin flip this. Since we're getting in on a little bit of time now, let's coin flip this pretty quickly. Let's go into ICP testing. Let's go into those macro and micro trace elements. Are they important?
Exactly where I was going to go next. Are they important? Short answer, yes.
But were they important 10 years ago?
Technically.
Did we know about them 10 years ago?
Bingo.
So, I mean, I've been reef keeping since 94, 95. We moved here in 92. Yeah, 94, 95. I didn't know anything about trace elements until about the last 8-10 years. We'll go 10-12 years. It's been about 12 years now that I've known.
We're talking like iodine, potassium, rhodium, nickel, iron.
We're talking all these little guys that come in on an ICP test, whether it's rubidium, strontium, molybdenum, boron. I mean, there's 25, 30 that we actually trace for or test for. I know I said 25, 30. I feel like
you were just I think you were just reading the cast of a Marvel movie.
No, I was trying to. I was debating on if I would look down and count them, but I'm pretty sure it's between 20 and 30.
I want to
trace elements.
But to be fair, I believe I could have this number wrong, but in trace elements in an ecosystem of a reef, there's 134 total trace elements.
I couldn't tell you.
I want to say that's the number. Could be wrong. Fact check me. But the humans and the computers that we have can only test up to a certain amount. I'm not.
Yeah, I think it's like 32 or 38 that we actually test with ICP MS. I know ICP OES testing is like 24 to 28 elements. But it comes down to how much work do you want to do in your tank? This goes back to the type of elements is the wrong word, type of products that you're dosing. Whether you're dosing C-Chem, whether you're dosing Quantum, whether you're dosing Alpha Reef. It really comes down to what you want to do. Every brand that's out there has gone through years and years of R&D testing and has been able to provide very beautiful, successful reef tanks with only doing the minor 14 trace elements, with only doing alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, with a few little macro trace elements mixed into it. I mean, still to this day, with all the new science and new technologies that we have out there, the balling method is still the #1 recommended dosing system in the world. And to kind of break it down for you guys, the balling method is a 6-part or 7-part dosing system where you have calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, and 3 bottles. Those 3 bottles also contain some of your macro trace elements. Now, when we say it contains those trace elements, it contains those trace elements, but it's not enough to buffer them up to exactly those levels that we require through ICP testing. It's enough to give the aragonite structures the supplemental reinforcements that they need for your corals to actually consume those elements and utilize them through photosynthesis and skeletal growth. One of the things, I don't know if you guys saw a little bit earlier ago when I showed you those numbers, you had the brittle calcite and then the strong aragonite. The biggest difference between that is one's using just alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium to create that structure. One's using the supporting macro trace elements to make that structure. So you get that supporting element, makes it a nice solid piece versus it being open and brittle like this. So those elements are important, but they're not as important as a lot of people tend to push them to. I shouldn't say that. They are as important, but having them in those full levels and full numbers aren't as big of a deal.
So that's where a lot of like the two parts come into place.
Hold on, don't go two part.
Okay.
Don't go two part yet. There's 3 to 4 more bottles in the balling method that I want to touch to.
3 and held up 4.
I did 3 to 4 more bottles because depending on the brand,
Life is
some
hard
of them
when
have
you're
4. Shut up. Some of them have 4. Some of them have 3. Those are going to be your minor trace elements. Those are going to be like your borons, your potassiums, and your irons. Those are going to be your halogens, your potassiums, and your metals. Those guys are going to be dosed in an amount where I'm giving you some, but I'm not giving you all. Because if I'm going to give you all, I need you to do ICP testing and see what that true number is. So the balling method gives you everything you need for support and chlorophyll and zooxanthellae color. So now let's go into 2-part, which is the next newest, best way of getting your trace elements. But old school 2-part was just calcium and was just alkalinity. It's changed now.
So with your 2 parts, you usually are going to have your alkalinity by itself with trace elements. Then you're going to have magnesium and calcium together, coupled with also with its trace elements. What are you doing? You look like you're thinking that's not a good thing.
No, I was just turning the camera.
So you've got your 2 parts.
2-part.
Plus phosphate.
Yeah, because I'm dosing for phosphate right now because I got hair algae.
But you've got your 2-part, which is going to handle the majority of everything I'm going to use this term loosely, need.
Yes.
It's going to give you the buffer you need for your alkalinity and calcium and magnesium, because those are the numbers you're actually shooting for with your 2-part. But with 2 parts in today's world, it's going to have those trace elements, the irons, the potassiums, the borons, the nickels, the metals, everything that your tank needs, but in a lower dose. It's basically allowing you to dose without having to ICP so that those levels don't get out of hand.
Right. And what a lot of companies did is, some of the newer companies that have remade their products, which there's quite a few of them now that are changing their formulas due to ICP testing. I mean, ICP testing didn't become available to a lot of the industry until about 10 years ago. So at that point, there was no way to see what was truly being consumed and utilized during coral growth. And now a lot of companies have actually done R&D testing with ICP testing with multiple tanks to see what trace elements are being consumed with calcium, which ones are being consumed with magnesium and whatnot. So it kind of allows us to go into the 35 different trace elements of what's being consumed and utilized during consumption. So those levels have been put in there based on what is being consumed with calcium. We're putting that number inside that bottle at the same time. So if a calcium L is being used, it's getting 14 milligrams, and I'm throwing weird numbers here. It's using 14 milligrams of potassium with that calcium to create that calcite structure. So we're replenishing 1 gram of calcium to 14 milliliters of potassium. And again, that's weird, stupid numbers. I'm just throwing crap out there. But that's kind of how they're doing it. It's in relation to. It's not a perfect science because every coral's different.
The reason manufacturers do that is because the cost of doing ICP tests adds up quickly. The ease of testing these at home is not easy. I mean, sure, Red Sea has great tests for potassium, for iodine and whatnot, but it's not an easy test to do for beginners. It doesn't give you exact numbers because it's color shading. So following these numbers is not exactly easy. So they try to do it based on a relative consumption rate.
Right. So one more thing, and we're going to have to call this an end because we're getting close on time here. If you want to do ICP testing, don't think that we're telling you not to. Some of the most beautiful tanks I've ever seen in the world are completely ICP tested. I mean, you go look at Andrew Sandler's 17,000 gallon tank, which just had a catastrophe, but his tank is 100.
You mentioned it, so we got to stop. Our thoughts and prayers go out to you, Andrew.
Yes, thoughts and prayers
Looks
to you,
like your team
100%.
actually handled it incredibly well. I can't believe you're going through it. You have our support if there's anything you need. Please reach out, brother.
Please reach out. Let me know. We'll do what we can to help you. ICP testing is a thing. ICP testing is a thing. It is helpful. You can truly dial in some amazing colors and some amazing growth with ICP testing. However, it is not for the weak and the weary. It is a lot of work, a lot of money, and I'm saying a lot of money because it is. I mean, you've got 25 to 35 different individual dosing elements that you're adding into your tank daily. They call them the dailies. And if you want to learn about ICP testing, you can head over to reefmoonshiners.com. I will call them out because Andrew Mueller does a great job in education and educating the public on what the trace elements are and what's needed. You can also find companies that have apps, their dosing apps will allow you to put in whatever ICP testing you're using and use their own products with ICP testing. So you can go into like say our app and you can go over to potassium and see that you're at 405 and you want to be at 415, put those numbers in there. It will tell you which one of our exact products to use to bring that level up. Same thing with Seachem, same thing with Tropic Marin. We all have that because we don't offer it. Tropic Marin doesn't offer it. Seachem doesn't offer it, but we still have the availability there for you.
It's also a terrifying thing to read because there's things in your tank you don't realize are in there. Like I'm pretty sure, and you have an ICP right in front of you. Is uranium on that?
God, now you want me to try to show uranium. Yep.
Yeah, isn't that what they used to build bombs?
Yeah.
But it's in your tank, and it's actually
Nicadium?
at a required level.
Nicadium? NiCad?
That's wild.
That's what we used to make lithium batteries
wild.
for Teslas.
Yeah, it's the stuff you don't realize you need. So, like, it can get very overwhelming very fast.
The best one, copper. I need copper in my reef tank. What the heck?
Right. I thought it was only WT. Doesn't that kill inverts? Doesn't that kill corals?
Sorry. I figured that was a good one to end that one on. So,
to sum all of this up, dosing is not required, but it makes life easier. I do want to touch on, like, real quick, I know we're coming close on time, the biggest dosing mistakes people do.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Of course I did, because I'm a freaking genius, and I think quicker than you.
Okay. So the biggest one is changing too many variables at once. I see people go, let's play with calcium. Let's do calcium, alkalinity, magnesium all at once. No, guys, pick one, start with it. Now, what's that correct order? What is the correct order that you should start with? Me personally, I'm a big fan of getting my nutrient levels under control first, because once I get my nitrates and my phosphates down, I can actually see what's being leached out from my rock, what's being leached out from my aragonite sand, what type of calcium levels and alkalinity levels are being leached out into my tank that are going to always be leached out. And then
those are going to be the first elements that you're going to notice when you're first getting into corals, first getting into your more sensitive fish.
Yes.
So those are like the most important from the rip.
Yes, those guys are very important. Start with those and then move into the alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. Magnesium has got such a vast range. I mean, you can be from 1250 to 1500 and be safe. So you've got a huge range for that one. As long as you're there, you're good. Calcium doesn't get consumed a lot, but it does. So I would definitely go nitrate, phosphate, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium. That would be my personal order. What about you?
I'm right there with you. The only caveat that I'll add is, and this is from experience, I don't know anecdotally how much you'll see this in the forums and whatnot, but you're going to start growing coralline. If you're just starting a tank, coralline's going to come into factor. And once coralline starts growing, magnesium is the one that's going to bottom.
Yep, magnesium's going to bottom out pretty quick.
If you're trying to convert your white rock, your brand new pristine rock, into coralline purple rock, you're going to have to dose magnesium. But the safe answer for that is there's a lot of products, Coral Up, Fowler Complete, Sweet Coraline.
Sweet Coraline.
Which ultimately actually is a calcium-magnesium blend. But there's a lot of products that you don't have to get into testing for. It's just going to tell you this is how you grow coralline algae.
Yep.
follow the directions on the bottle. You're not going to dive into that type of dosing with that. So that's
Right.
the only kind of variance I'm going to throw in there is if you're shooting for coralline, your magnesium is going to take a pretty big dip at first.
Yeah, and another mistake that people are doing is the testing. If you're not testing consistently, you're failing. I mean, you are trying to grow a living organism. You have to test and see what's being consumed, see what's being utilized to be able to replenish it. If you don't replenish it, it's not going to work. It's kind of like getting a 1 gallon water jug for your dogs. You see how many days they last on that 1 gallon water jug, and then you refill it. It's the same thing for your corals.
And there's 2 steps to the consistency of testing: frequency and style. And by style, I mean brand. And by brand, I mean exact tester. Whether it's at home, whether it's your local fish store, it does not matter. The consistency comes in location and type of test and how often you do it.
Yeah, and time of day. If we're doing this,
that matters.
Time of day matters 100% because consumption rates vary during photo periods. So if you're testing in the evening, you've gone through an entire photo period. If you're testing in the morning, you've gone through an entire resting state. So you're going to have a higher alkalinity, higher calcium, and higher phosphate levels during the morning times than you are at night. So make sure that time of day testing is the exact same.
I'm going to hit a pet peeve of mine real quick. You cannot get water from your tank in the morning, leave it in your car, go to work, go to the fish store afterwards, and get a test that's even remotely freaking accurate. Don't do it. You're wasting my time. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your money. Don't do it.
Yep. So dosing doesn't have to be complicated. It is truly a simple process. It is truly just sitting down, taking those test numbers, writing them down, seeing what the variance is, and adjusting your dosing for that variance. Whether it's manually dosing once a week, dosing it on a dosing pump, whatever you're doing, there's lots of different ways about dosing that makes it stupid simple. I mean, we're Americans. We like the KISS method. Keep it stupid simple. Don't make this overcomplicated. Everybody likes to overcomplicate everything in this industry, and it's truly not. Don't overthink it. Don't overdo it. Don't change too many things at once. That's the only thing I have to tell you guys. Do not change too many things at once. You will hate your life, and you will get out of this hobby really fast.
It can be as complicated as you make it. I mean, nowadays, a 2-part works beautifully. My display at the fish store runs entirely off a 2-part.
Yep.
Plus amino acids, which we didn't touch on, but that's a whole nother concept.
That's not this dosing conversation. That's totally different.
So that's foods. We might do an episode on foods later.
Well,
but
I think we're gonna do a second episode on dosing, maybe even next week. In 2 weeks, do a more of a deep dive on the different types of dosing, the different ways of dosing, because we both had all these ideas for this episode, but just doing what we did, we're already at almost 50 minutes. So I think we do need to continue into this next week and do a little bit more of a deep dive in how to dose alkalinity and some different types and stuff like that.
So that's done. Next episode, I want to get in this habit. Next episode is part 2 of dosing. So if you have any questions on dosing, or you have any fun stories on dosing, or you have any information on dosing,
gripes,
any
complaints,
fact checks on
anything, please bring it up to us.
Message us, comment it to us. If you want to jump on with us next time, that would be fantastic. We're still trying to get to enough followers on Facebook to go actual live. So y'all communicating with us on it, liking it, following us, subscribing, that all helps.
Yes.
Just get the word out even more.
Yes. And on that note, you guys stay salty.
Stay opinionated.
And that's where we're going to leave it. If you learned something, great. If you're mad about something, also great. Stay salty, stay opinionated. Follow us on Facebook at the H2O Podcast for more.